Happy President's Day, everybody, from the press box here on the Right Team Podcast. I'm David Weaver, and I'm once again excited to be joined by my co-host, the pastor of Friendship Baptist Church in Marshall, and also sports director of KMHC 103.9 FM, the heartbeat of East Texas, Brother Matt Paul.
What's going on, man?
Hey, I know you had a long weekend. Anyone who's never worked or been a part of a D-Now weekend, you enter a period of recovery immediately after that. Have you begun that, or are you back in the saddle here full bore here today?
Getting there. Kind of was able to lay low a little bit yesterday. Of course, we had to drive back, but that was good. Kind of gonna lay low again today. Did my radio show this morning. Of course, doing this, but
Did Kelly get to go with you on this, or
she did, and thankfully she drove most of the way, or all the way back, which was really helpful to me. I've never. Funny story. I've never preached 3 services in a row on a Sunday morning. Thankfully got to do the same sermon, but it's funny. She asked me if I was going to use any of those sermons this coming Sunday at Friendship. And I said, no. I said, I don't really like working that way, but also the Friday and Saturday ones were geared toward youth. So I'd kind of have to adjust those. I said, in the Sunday one, quite frankly, I'm sick of it. I've preached it 3 times. I don't want to look at it again. So
yeah, you can do it now and you're sleeping without notes, right?
Probably so.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm fresh from my chiropractor this morning. We're recording this a little bit later than we usually do. But man, I had to go see my guy this morning. I had a 3-night run at the Bell with the Bell Dad Dance in Hall's annual Bobcat Bell show over here this week. And
yes,
I'm going to tell you, I've done that now 4 straight years. I had a daughter that graduated last year that was a Bell for 3 years. I have a daughter this year that was involved in Bells, and she'll be a senior next year. So by the time it's all done, I will have put in 5 years as a part of the Bell Dad Dance, which is fun on the surface. But with each passing year, it reminds me I am definitely heading in the wrong direction in terms of age, not getting any younger. Fortunately, I had that chiropractor appointment set up already, and it came about at the right time. So at least here for the next few hours, I feel pretty good. Kind of got my stature back a little bit. But
yeah.
But anyway, and you picked it up again. Credit to my partner here. He picked it up the minute we went online. But our backdrop here today is far from the press box is Milano Sant'Aglia. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Ice hockey arena in Milano, Italy.
Yeah.
Or in Milan, Italy, where Team USA is headed following their 5-1 win over Germany Sunday in the preliminary round of the Milan Olympics. With that win, Matt, Team USA clinched the Group C championship. Will play the winner of Tuesday's Sweden versus Latvia match in the knockout round quarterfinal. Of course, the Americans have already beaten Latvia earlier in the tournament. So, and Jack Stallard, our guest host on Friday, he and I talked a little bit about this isn't necessarily equal to the miracle on ice, but you do always want to see your USA team do well in these kinds of things, and they've been as good as advertised to this point.
They have, boy, isn't that a beautiful place to watch a hocky match? Look at that thing.
Yeah, it is. That is the main event arena. Now, not all of the games have been played in this particular arena, but the medal round will certainly be played there. So the USA has advanced to play there, and again, we're looking at once you get there, you might as well go win the gold medal. So the Americans are right there in the thick of all of it. Actually, seeded number 2 in the entire field going into the medal round. So,
wow.
Before we get too much further into the show today, we, of course, want to thank our podcast sponsors for their support of our podcast. First, East Texas Baptist University combines strong academics with championship-level athletics and a Christ-centered mission that impacts every part of campus life. If you're looking for a university that values faith, competition, and community, ETBU is worth checking out. Today's show is also brought to you by Stiles Electric, based right here in East Texas with offices in Longview and Mount Pleasant. Stiles Electric has been providing a dependable professional electrical work for over a quarter century in East Texas and beyond. When experience matters, Stiles Electric delivers service that speaks for itself. And of course, finally, today's episode is brought to you by Right Team Services. Right Team Services helps schools, small businesses, and nonprofits turn ideas into impact through effective writing, clear messaging, and meaningful connection across your websites and social media platforms. When you need results but don't quite have the words to say, let Right Team Services provide the voice that you need. Contact us today at 903-926-1766 to learn more about how we can help you tell your story. Let's get right into it here, Matt. And we want to start it off here this morning on the podcast with our high school roundup. We're going to focus specifically on the first round of playoff action here amongst the girls in the UIL playoffs here, literally with games getting started this evening. And we're going to start here with our local roundup here. Of course, first off in 6A D1, we've got Tyler Legacy, which finished the season 25-6. We'll be playing Saxe at 6 o'clock on Tuesday at Maybank. That's the D1 local connection that we have here in girls basketball. And then a little bit more local here, even 6A D2, the Longview Lady Lobos finished the season at 22-6, and they'll be playing Lakeview Centennial also on Tuesday at 6:30. I was unable to track down a site for that, so you may know more than I do, but I could not find a site for that. But the time is actually 6:30 on Tuesday.
I feel like I saw it. Let me look and see if I can find it. It's one of those things you're like, did I see that on Facebook somewhere?
Yeah. I was actually surprised.
Van, Texas.
Okay. I was actually surprised to find that actually Max Preps is actually has the UIL information as well. They have their own actual bracket, and have all the sites and everything listed there, but I could not find that one. But 6:30 Tuesday for Longview, they're in Van. Okay, moving into 5A D1. This was a district, of course, Matt, where you have a little bit more knowledge on this one. Number 24, Texas High, which finished the season at 21-3. We'll be playing McKinney North tonight at 6 o'clock in Paris. Lufkin versus number 8, Prosper Walnut Grove. I could not find a site or time on that one. I had TBA, but those two girls are competing in the D1 bracket in 5A.
Yeah. But don't know much about the district they're going against. Obviously, I know just watched Lufkin last week. Solid team, not at the level of what I've seen from T High and White House, which I don't even know exactly who or where White House is playing either. Obviously, that's the number 3 team in the state, so that's the one to really watch out of this district. T High, we'll see. They, I think 2 of their 3 losses this year are to White House, but I can tell you based on what I've seen, there was a fundamental difference there between White House and T High. Not like overwhelming, but there was just kind of a little bit different level there, a little bit different intensity and focus. So anxious to see how those teams do, because those are 2 teams that were state ranked throughout much of the year.
In this little bi-district cluster here, you have 3 top 25 ranked teams, and 2 of those are actually ranked in the top 10 in the state, with Walnut Grove ranked number 8. So pretty competitive, interesting bi-district round here, actually, with these 4 teams these 8 teams that are in the same part of the bracket. Moving over to, actually, they're not the same part of the bracket. They're 2 different divisions. I'm reading this wrong. But you got 5A D1, and then moving down to the 5A D2 ranks. Mount Pleasant from District 10 5A will be going up against Lucas Lovejoy. That will take place this evening at 6:30 p.m. And then you mentioned White House, number 3 in the state. The Lady Cats are 35-0 in the season. They'll be taking on Anna at 6:30 Tuesday in Sulphur Springs. Anna comes into that one with a 20-14 mark. Not a bad overall season mark. When you're in a team 35-0, you kind of have the risk of being exposed somewhat. We'll see what happens at Sulphur Springs on Tuesday.
Well, and you just never know, with this district, with teams like Anna and Walnut Grove, Lovejoy, Melissa's in that district, you're in the DFW area. And basketball there is way different than basketball in East Texas. It's funny. I know we're going to wait and talk about boys tomorrow, but I was talking with one of the Lufkin media people when Marshall played Lufkin last week. And I said, you getting ready for a big playoff run? Because they're top 5 in the state, the boys team. And he said, Feel like if we can make it out of the first round, we'll be good. But that's that first round that's always tough. And I'm like, you're number 5 in the state. That should be a no-brainer. But you're opening against one of those DFW teams, right? So you just
Be
never
honest,
know.
that district, by and large, in pretty much every sport, has kind of had our number over here.
Yeah.
For the last couple of years. I mean, you go to football, you go to football actually competes south or has competed south recently, but all the other sports, you're going against the McKinney schools, Lovejoy, Walnut Grove now out of Prosper, and they have by and large kind of won that matchup, that by-district matchup in just about every sport.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's a tough matchup for 10-5A here, but again, they'll see what they can do here. Particularly with White House is kind of carrying the banner there in D2. And of course, Texas High has an opportunity against McKinney North tonight. So we'll see what happens. For a D2, number 18, Chapel Hill at 29-6 will be taking on Brownsboro at 26-9. Pretty good matchup there going on tonight at 6 o'clock at UT Tyler's Patriot Center. On the other side of that bracket, number 23, Spring Hill at 27-7 will be taking on number 17, Canton. So a top 25 matchup there in by district. That game takes place on Tuesday at 8 o'clock in Mineola.
If I had a choice of a by district to watch this week, that one in 4A might be what I'd want to watch. Those two matchups right there. It's some good stuff.
Yeah, that's a regional semifinal type matchup already happening in by district. So a pretty good one going on there at Mineola on Tuesday. Okay, let's get into the 3A ranks here. And the 3A and 2A ranks locally are pretty full on both sides of the bracket. To start in 3A Division 1, Atlanta is taking on Jefferson. That takes place actually this evening at 8 o'clock in Dangerfield. The Bulldogs come into that one at 22-7, while the Rabbits are listed at 9-14. Got to figure Jefferson's the favorite in that one. Gladewater at 10-18 will be taking on number 14 Mineola, which is 29-7 on the season. That game takes place at 7:30 tonight at Tyler Junior College. Other side, go ahead.
I was just going to say Jefferson and Atlanta does seem like a heavy favorite for Jefferson there, but anytime those two teams meet, that's a rivalry right there, right up Highway 59. So curious to see how that one goes.
Again, it's wild to think those two teams aren't even in the same district.
I know.
District, but it is what it is. Okay, the bottom part of that bracket, the number 8 ranked Liberty Ilo Leopards at 28-4 will be playing Hughes Springs. Again, I have a TBA on that one. I couldn't track down a site, but those two teams are your by-district matchup. And then Malakoff will be taking on Sabine. Interesting here. We talked about in 4A, the number 23 versus number 17. Well, this one is Malakoff at 17-16 overall against Sabine, which is 14-14. So a little bit different end of the spectrum on that one, but they'll be facing off tonight at 6 o'clock there at TJC. So you got a doubleheader happening at Tyler Junior College tonight. Wagstaff Gym, I think is what the name is, 6 o'clock and 7:30. A lot of basketball in 3A there. Okay,
no doubt about it. We've talked about that. We got so many teams in that area.
Oh yeah,
or in that division.
I believe we got 4 districts in our area that we cover and look at that are actually in 3A and 2A actually. So that's why we got a lot of teams here. 3A D2, Mount Pleasant Chapel Hill will be taking on Hooks. That game actually takes place at 6 o'clock tonight at Maverick Gym in Marshall.
I'll be on the mic. I'm doing PA for that one.
And really, just as an old Marshall guy that was working there at the time when all the upgrades were taking place at the athletic facilities, particularly the gym, to be able to see that a playoff game is actually coming to Marshall and Marshall is being considered their facilities is a big tip of the cap to the school board and leadership over there that made that commitment to upgrade facilities all the way around. So Maverick Gym now is again a playoff destination, and that's good to see. Yeah,
very, very excited for it. I'm looking forward to getting up there tonight and working that game. Even though I know nothing really about those two teams, but it'll be fun to be on the microphone and making an exciting thing because that's what you want. Playoffs ought to be exciting.
That's right. Harmony will be taking on DeKalb this evening at 6:30, and Prairie Land. Keeping on down the bracket here in 3A D2, Quitman at 22-11 will be taking on Tatum at 18-13. Those two teams will square off this evening at 6 o'clock at Tyler Legacy High School in Tyler. And then the last game in the D2 bracket here in East Texas, Troop at 21-13 will be playing Edgewood. That game takes place at 6 o'clock tonight at Union Grove. Moving on to 2A D1. Union Grove at 27-3 will be playing Overton. Again, this is kind of another lopsided matchup. If you just look at records, Overton comes into this one below 500 at 14-16. That game takes place Tuesday at 6 o'clock at TJC. Joaquin at 18-13 takes on Woden at 16-13 at 6 o'clock Tuesday there in Nacogdoches at Central Heights. Hawkins will be playing Cushing at 7:30 Tuesday TJC. So a couple of back-to-back doubleheaders going on with the Apaches. And then the big one here locally, Elysian Fields, of course, takes on San Augustine. The Lady Jackets go into that one 14-11 on the season, taking on the Lady Wolves at 23-9. That game will take place at 7 o'clock Tuesday in Garrison. You talk about a Cinderella run. The EF Lady Jackets are kind of on that, aren't they, Matt?
Yeah, and you and I talked about this last week, and I had to apologize because, this is that season of year where on the radio station you've got basketball going on, you've got powerlifting going on, you've got soccer going on, baseball and softball are just starting. Softball's kind of rolling now, and a few weeks ago I had looked, and EF was about 3 or 4 games out of the playoffs with maybe 6 games to go. And I just kind of quit keeping up with them because the boys were in it, and so were the Wascom boys, and so were the Harleton girls, and so and I look up and Beckville loses 4 out of 5 down the stretch. EF wins 4 out of 5 or 4 out of 6, and the next thing you know, they're in a play-in game that just happened on Friday afternoon, which EF won, and so a lot of momentum going for the Lady Jackets now. And we'll see how we're going to be covering that game on KMHT tomorrow night. That'll be on the AM side. The Marshall Senior Night will be for the boys. Will be on the FM side. But excited for them. EF boys and girls should both be in the playoffs.
It's a really big deal down in EF. Of course, Elysian Fields is one of my clients with Right Team Services. Got a lot of friends and people that I work with down there, and it's pretty cool to see. EF and Wascom are moving their boys basketball game to this evening so they can get that one in. So everyone that, that side of the athletic department, the boys side, can actually go to the girls game and support them. And softball is actually holding their season opener or their home opener on Tuesday. They moved that up an hour to 4 o'clock on Tuesday. So all the softball folks can actually get down to Garrison and watch the basketball game. So it should be a pretty big crowd following Elysian Fields on Tuesday night in the bi-district round against San Augustine, which appears to be a pretty good basketball team coming in there with only 9 losses on the year.
Yeah, that it'll be a tough one. There's no doubt about it. But just the fact that they came from where they were to get there, I think, is pretty impressive.
Absolutely. 2A D2 got a pretty interesting bi-district pairing here that could lead into the area round with number 25 Harleton taking on Mount Enterprise tonight at 7 o'clock at Art. The winner of that game will take on number 18 Timpson, which is 26-6 on the season, which is taking on West Sabine this evening at 6 o'clock in Center. Possibly, if everything goes to form and plays out the way you think the favorites are, Harleton and Timpson could be a top 25 matchup in the area round locally.
Yeah, big one for Harleton. Coach Kerry Strong, I'm having him on my show tomorrow, hopefully to talk about a win. I guess it'll be a season recap if it doesn't go their way tonight. We're covering that game tonight on the Heartbeat. He's really kind of established something there. They kind of came out of nowhere last year. I believe finished second in district and won a playoff game, and then ran into either Timpson or Tenaha in the second round. I can't remember which one, but it was a very athletic team, and they were just overwhelmed in the second round. So I'm anxious to see if they can get by this one against Mount Enterprise, and then see if maybe they're a little closer to or even able to advance past that second round. I mean, it was a great season last year, but they were just overwhelmed in that position. May have an opportunity here to almost kind of have a second chance at that, and we'll see. But he has done a great job with that program. I mean, if you've got a program ranked in the top 25 in the state, you're doing something right.
Rounding out the 2A D2 ranks here locally with East Texas ties, Douglas will be playing McLeod. The key part of that game for me that stood out was it's taking place at 6 o'clock tonight right here in my backyard where I'm at, Hallsville. High school will be hosting that game. And then the last one in 2A D2 locally with Tenaha at 20-11 will be taking on the number 8 team in the state, Shireno, which is 25-4. That game takes place at 7:30 Tuesday in Center. So that is your ladies basketball rundown here as the girls playoffs get started in full force this week in the UIL.
Fun time of year. You got that starting. You got senior nights for the boys tomorrow night in a lot of places. Of course, this weekend will be, I would assume, round 2 for the girls, and then also kind of your play-in week for the boys if there's any that needs to happen, and then we'll get rolling with the boys next week.
It's always kind of cool how this works out. You got all these teams that are now, of course, competing in the bi-district round. The cool thing about basketball is they play actually 2 playoff rounds per week.
Yeah.
So it's very similar to the way the NCAA is set up, where March Madness lasts, 3 weeks, and the UIL playoffs last the same amount, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
In 3 weeks you'll be down in Austin for the state tournament, hopefully starting tonight. So anyway, exciting time for the girls. And as you mentioned, the boys finish their seasons most up tomorrow night, and then of course they'll get started with their playoff rounds next week. That'll be also exciting on the boys' side.
For sure.
Okay, let's move on and stay in basketball here. We're going to give our NCAA men's top 25 roundup, as we always do here on the show. And a full weekend of college basketball, Matt, starting on Friday night with some top 25, some upsets taking place, mainly in Wisconsin, where the Badgers hosted number 10 Michigan State and walked out of there with a 21-point victory, 92-71. Anything shock you about that one? That actually ties those two teams in the Big Ten standings at 10-4 now.
Wisconsin established themselves early. That was one of the games I told you to watch. I really liked Wisconsin to be very competitive in that game. I certainly didn't expect a blowout. Wisconsin's a curious team, 18-7, which is a good record, not a great record, but they got a road win over Michigan, a road win over Illinois, and now a home win over Michigan State. It's kind of one of those teams that you're like, hey, what if they end up a 5 seed? The 12 could beat them, or they could go to the Elite 8. I don't know. But that was an impressive performance.
Definitely. The Spartans take one on the chin there. The other games played Friday night in the top 25 on the men's side. St. Louis, which is surprisingly first time I've mentioned St. Louis this year, ranked number 18th overall. They are 24-1 in the A10. They took care of business against Loyola Chicago, 86-59. And then moving to the MAC conference, number 23 Miami of Ohio took care of business at home against Ohio with a 90-74 win.
Still undefeated. 25-0 Miami of Ohio. Crazy. Yeah.
The old quote mid-major raising its head there in the top 25, a couple of those.
2 of them there with St. Louis too at 24-1.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to a huge day on Saturday in men's basketball. Matt, you and I were texting back and forth. Several top 25 matchups going down. Some of these you mentioned on your games to watch for the weekend late last week. Let's start out at the top. Number 1, Arizona, coming off of their first loss of the season last Monday night to Kansas, which, again, we talked about Fog Allen and how tough it is to win in that place. And they get to go home. You're thinking they're going to get an opportunity to get another big top 25 win, but the Texas Tech Red Raiders not so fast, my friend.
Yeah, got to give my wife a guns up. Of course, a Tech grad. Texas Tech now has wins over Arizona, Duke, and Houston this year. Arizona, Duke, and Houston have combined for 6 losses this year, and 3 of them are Texas Tech. That is as impressive a trio of wins as you're going to find. JT Toppin just off the charts good. Boy, I cannot stress this enough. You're going to have some 3 and 4 seeds in the tournament this year that are national title contenders. Texas Tech's probably one of them. It was an impressive win.
Yeah, I hitched my wagon to them last year in the bracket, and they almost pulled me out of it with a pretty
Yeah.
good run. Probably have to do that again this year based on your advice that you're giving us.
Yeah.
Um, questions raising up in Arizona, although I don't know, if it's time to sound the alarm with a loss at Kansas and then an overtime loss at home to Texas Tech.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird looking at this. The first half was 32-32. The second half was 34-34. And you get outscored in overtime by 3. Wow, just a whale of a college basketball game there. And it's again,
And it's going to be really interesting for Arizona. Their next 5 games, home with BYU, who had some horrible injury news over the weekend. They lost one of their best players. At Houston, at Baylor, home with Kansas, home with Iowa State. They play 4 of their next 5 are against ranked teams, 3 of them against top 10 teams. So Arizona's going through a gauntlet right now. It's not a great start to it, but look, they've been way too good all year with some really, really dominating wins over some good teams. I'm not worried about Arizona in the slightest.
in the Big 12 here, another big game that took place in Houston. Of course, number 3 Cougars rolled to their 23rd win on the season against just 2 losses with a 78-64 Big 12 win at home against 1-11 Kansas State, which fired their coach yesterday after that 1-11 start in Big 12 play. But the Cougars now 11-1 in the Big 12. Now right back in the mix, of course, for the Big 12 championship.
Well, they're leading it now.
Yeah.
Arizona came into the week undefeated. Now they're not even leading their conference.
Leapfrog there. The other big top 10 matchup in the Big 12 was Iowa State, number 5, hosting said Kansas at number 9, and they take care of the Jayhawks 74-56. Not surprised so much by that because Iowa State's a really good basketball team, particularly at home. And Kansas, even with that big win over Arizona, still kind of trying to find themselves.
When your best player just keeps taking games off,
he just refuses to play. I mean,
it's really weird. It's really weird.
And we've talked about this, pretty good draft class coming up, and he's that. Many places he's at the top of that list.
He is.
If I'm an NBA franchise, I have to think, what's this guy's commitment like? I mean, he just refuses to play basketball.
It's crazy, and they beat Arizona without him.
Right.
Like they're playing well without him. I mean, it's still he's one of the best players in the country. So you want to say, no, we're not better off without him. I don't believe that at all. But it's just a bizarre kind of thing. I don't know. It's
we're talking about Darren Peterson.
Yeah,
by and large, considered the number 1 player coming out probably in the draft, but it's really hard to say because he rarely plays.
Yeah,
it's quality competition.
I mean, you got him, you got Boozer, and you got DeBansa out of BYU, and I'm like, if I got a top 2 draft pick, I'm going to lean toward the dudes that seem to be playing every game.
Right, and to put it in more perspective, one of the comparisons I heard to this kid at Kansas, Peterson, was that think Kobe Bryant as far as his game goes.
Yeah,
that's pretty much where it stops. He does not have the mentality of a Kobe Bryant.
And at least he hasn't demonstrated it yet. That's for sure.
Spend the top pick if you get it on a player like that. I don't know. That's going to be an interesting decision to watch when draft time comes around, for sure.
For sure.
Another big thing about the Big 12 here, Matt, that I found from Michael Swain on Twitter. I don't really know who this is, but it was an interesting tweet. Over the next 3 weeks of the season leading into the Big 12 tournament, games against the Big 12's top 6 teams. Okay. And this is how this is all going to shape out here. Just a brutal conference to be in down the stretch. Arizona still has 4 games against the Big 12's top 6 teams. Iowa State still has 4 games. Houston has 3, BYU 3, Kansas 2, and Texas Tech 2.
Yeah.
That's what it's all going to shake out in the end because teams are going head to head against each other down the stretch.
It's going to be fun. Tune in at the Big 12, man.
Moving to the Big 10, number 2 Michigan takes a 30-point win at home over UCLA. Man, that was a spanking. A 46-18 run in the second half for the Wolverines to pull away in that one.
UCLA is not a bad team. They're a tournament team. And Michigan just discarded them like it was a warm-up game against the JV squad. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning toward Michigan. Maybe I think they kind of had their dip in the season. They may be the number one team in the country going into the tournament by the time it's all said and done.
And you say that, and I get it, but like their dip, they have one loss. You hadn't had a dip. And
Yeah, but they had that loss, but
loss.
they had a couple of games right around that loss where
Yeah, they had a
they
couple
struggled a
close
little bit.
games, but it's crazy. That team is scary. Like they get on runs and the game's just over. Like a 5-minute stretch,
Right.
and you're like, well, this one's done.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what happened on Saturday against UCLA.
Yep.
Top 20 matchup in the ACC. Number 4, Duke takes care of business at home against number 20, Clemson. The Blue Devils improved to 12-1 in the ACC, 23-2 overall with that 67-54 win at home.
Duke looks good.
Number 6, UConn, cruising in the Big East. They take a 79-75 win at home over Georgetown. A little bit tighter than you would expect.
Yeah.
The Warriors kept that one close throughout, but UConn pulled away at the end. Going back to the Big Ten, number 7, Nebraska took care of Northwestern at home, 68-49. North Carolina hosted 2-11 in the ACC Pittsburgh, but the Tar Heels cruised to a 79-65 win out west.
Boy, before you get to that, did you see the bad injury news for the Tar Heels?
I did not. What happened?
Their freshman Caleb Wilson, who's projected top 5 pick, fracture in his hand, no timetable for return. You've got that injury and the injury to Richie Saunders at BYU, who after Debansa, him and Wright are their 2 guys. There was some rough injury news for teams that, we're on the cusp of being a 4 or 5 seed, and now you've lost some of your best players. You just hate to see that, especially on a year where like there's so many good teams. You want all these teams to make it healthy into the tournament because it's going to be one of the more competitive tournaments we've ever seen.
But there is a silver lining. It's happening here with 3 weeks to go before the tournament. So if you do have to kind of move things around, you can kind of figure out rotations and things like that.
Yeah.
In some big time moments down the stretch. But yeah, there's no question losing talent like that makes a difference in your basketball team for sure.
Yep.
Number 12, Gonzaga took care of business on the road at Santa Clara. Man, that was a
good
big
win
in the West Coast Conference. The Bulldogs improved to 25-2, 13-1 in the conference. Santa Clara was a tough road matchup there. They are now 22-6, 13-2 in the conference in that 8-point win for Gonzaga. Big Ten action, Purdue goes on the road to Iowa, takes care of business, 78-57. The Boilermakers are kind of lurking around the fringes of the top 10 there, kind of a sneaky good team there in the second 10 of the top 20.
Well, they had a 3-game losing streak, and they seem to have righted the ship this past week.
Now that's a dip, a 3-game losing streak.
It is. It is. And they got a win over Nebraska, a road win over Iowa. Purdue's scary. Just a word about the Boilermakers real quick before we move on. This is a team that beat Alabama in the non-conference. This is a team that beat Texas Tech by 30 points. They beat Texas Tech. This is a team that also has some solid wins over Auburn, and they played a solid non-conference schedule. Had that little dip, but by and large, this weekend was a road win over number 7 Nebraska and a dominating road win over Iowa. It was a good week for Purdue.
Top 25 matchup in the SEC. Kentucky goes on the road and takes a loss at the defending national champion Florida Gators. 92-83 was the final in that one. Florida kind of getting its legs under it here as we move into the end of the regular season. They're now 10-2 in the SEC after a pretty slow start to their title defense.
Florida is very hot. They have won 5 in a row. They have won 10 of 11 after losing their SEC opener. Florida's going to have something to say about things just like last year.
Virginia, ranked 15th in the country, goes on the road in a non-conference matchup in the Nashville Hoops Showdown, and they take a win over Ohio State, 70-66. I don't guess that was a road game, actually. Ohio State is listed as the designated home team. With it being in Nashville, that's a that's a neutral site.
It's a neutral game. Good win for Virginia. Ohio State needs one. Ohio State has played 8 games against quad 1 competition now. They're 0-8. They're a bubble team. they need to start getting some of these wins if they're going to get in. I feel like Ohio State's always a bubble team. They've got a big one tomorrow night with Wisconsin, and then over the weekend they go at Michigan State. If they can't get one of those, I feel like they're just going to perpetually be on the bubble and probably the wrong side of it.
A lot of controversy in this next one. Number 17, St. John's takes a 10-point win over Providence, 79-60. Of course, this game was marred by a brawl that was going to have some probably far-reaching implications here, at least in the time being. But St. John's did get out of there with that win to improve to 20-5 on the season.
11 straight wins for the Red Storm.
Back in the SEC, Texas A&M goes – talk about a team that's kind of come back down to earth a little bit. Texas A&M goes on the road at Vanderbilt. The number 19 ranked Commodores take an 82-69 win over the Aggies to improve to 8-4 in the conference. They are 21-4 overall.
A&M kind of in a free fall right now, needs to right the ship.
Staying in the SEC, number 21 Arkansas hosted Auburn up there in Fayetteville, took an 88-75 win. The Hogs improved to 19-6 on the season, 9-3 in the SEC. SEC still kind of right there on the fringes of at the top of the conference, right? I mean, they're still
they're in second place, one game behind Florida.
Number one seed for sure.
Yep.
You mentioned BYU.
Performance.
You mentioned BYU, Matt. They number 22 in the country. They did come away with a 90-86 win at home over Colorado. Of course, the big news coming out of that one was that injury you talked about, which can affect them down the stretch here potentially. Then the final top 25 game on Saturday, number 24 Louisville went on the road or played Baylor in a non-conference matchup, and the Cardinal comes away with an 82-71 victory there over the. Talk about free falling. Baylor Bears 13-12 now on the season for Baylor. Not too far away national champ.
Years ago. And got to point out Baylor has played what most call the number one schedule in the country. Their non-conference schedule wasn't that tough, but they have played Iowa State twice this year. They have played Houston. They have played Texas Tech. They have played BYU. They have played Louisville. They have played St. John's. They have played a ton of high-level ranked teams. Still have Arizona and Houston again left on the schedule. So there's chances for wins. Baylor's one of those teams that if they somehow get to like 18 wins, you're like, oh, look at that schedule. Do we have to put them in? But they're just not finding the wins this year.
Yeah, that could be one of those tough matchups for a higher seeded team with a team like Baylor lurking at maybe a 10-11 seed at some point down the line. And then there was an actual top 25 men's game on Sunday in the Big Ten. Illinois hosted Indiana. The Illini at 21-5 now. I took a 20-point win over the Hoosiers at home. They are ranked number 8 in the country.
Illinois is a really good team. Really good team.
Okay, that's your top 25 rundown for the weekend on the men's side. We got a new feature coming up here, Matt. Tell us a little bit about what we're now referring to as Back Row Bracketology.
Back Row Bracketology. Love bracketology, keeping up with it. In fact, a few years back, I told you I got so frustrated with how poorly I did on my actual bracket that I thought, let me see if I can be more successful at predicting what the bracket's going to look like. And I was far more successful. So I actually have not looked at the men's bracketology on ESPN or anywhere else for a week. We call it Back Row Bracketology. You and I are both Baptists. We all know where Baptists sit when they go into the sanctuary for worship. So it's just kind of a fun name for it. But I've thrown together.
For the record, I'm going to tell you, I'm a middle row.
You're a middle row. Okay,
I
gotcha.
moved up to the middle row. Yes.
Well,
sir.
I don't have a choice. I'm up front.
Give me credit for that.
Yeah, but just kind of throwing my hat in the ring, getting back into it. Threw this together rather quickly last night. So now that if it's going to become a recurring feature, I'll probably invest a little more effort and focus in it, which may mean some things change. And you're like, wait, why did that team drop? Because they didn't even play. And I'll be like, well, I gave it a closer look. But this was just kind of off the cuff last night after a long weekend. But yeah, we've got our own version of it here on from the press box.
Okay, and let's just kind of break this down. And I'm going to try for all you folks out there watching on YouTube to throw this up there so you can kind of see what we're looking at. Again, it's somewhat minimal in its current form, as Matt said. He didn't have a whole lot of time, and then hats off to you, partner, for doing this after that long weekend. I was actually not expecting this to be necessarily done today. And in fact, when I sent you our show notes, if you'll remember, I had question marks there as to whether this was going to happen. And you immediately jumped on there, and I believe you were halfway through it by the time I reached out to you. So kudos to you for doing this work on this. And again, we have been using ESPN's bracketology, but this is just kind of a cool way of adding to our show here. And again, it's all Matt's doing. So let's take a look at this real quick here. Now, you kind of walk us through here because I'm assuming that you have everyone here seated in a way that would typically be easy to look at, with your number one seeds being Michigan, Duke, Arizona, and Houston, correct?
Yeah. So, and the way it is, what you're looking at, I know from what was sent, there's what's called an S curve, and you essentially rank them across 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you dip down 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you dip down. And so, the top number one seed in theory is going to be matched up with the worst number two seed, and so on and so forth. So, already controversy with the one seeds. I think Houston and UConn are very, very would be a high debate. I went with Houston because tougher conference, and the metrics just look better for Houston. If you look at the some of the efficiency ratings that you see out there, if you look at some of the NCAA's net rating, which is kind of one of the main things they use to pick the bracket, Houston's clearly ahead in that. So that's kind of why I went with Houston. A lot of people need to know, like, sometimes a team like may be slated as a 4 seed, and you're like, well, how did they get bumped up to a 3? The NCAA is gonna. We need to know something. Two teams from the same conference can't meet in the second round. They can meet. Excuse me, can't meet in the first round. They can meet in the second round, but they kind of try to avoid that sometimes. So there's some shifting around that happens there. I've even put where I predict the locations to be, just because they try to put teams in their region if you're like a 1 or a 2 seed, because it brings more fans. I've got my own last 4 in, first 4 out, all that good stuff. You'll be happy to know Texas right now is safely in my bracket. Not that my bracket means anything, but anyway.
Appreciate that. Again, I will give a shout out to my Horns. Huge win on the road Saturday night at Missouri.
Yeah.
Kind of took that game over there, particularly in the final 10 minutes for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It was a good win for them. But yeah, you tell me, what do you want to talk about first?
Just start at the top and take us down. And you don't have to necessarily talk about all the teams, but again, we'll try to throw this up there so folks can see what we're talking about. But yeah, just kind of walk us through here some of the things that you noticed or maybe jumped out to you with some of these teams in your bracketology.
Yeah, so Michigan, the overall number 1, Duke, the overall number 2, then Arizona. Arizona was the overall number 1, but lost a couple games this week. And then Houston edged out UConn for that last 2. Purdue, Illinois, and Iowa State round out the 2s. The 3s where it gets interesting. I really need to dive into Gonzaga. I've got them as the top 3 because their metrics look good, but they're definitely not playing in as strong a conference. Nebraska, Kansas, and Texas Tech all could have been a 3. And with Gonzaga and Florida already being there, I had to pick one of them to bump down to a 4. It ended up being Texas Tech because the metrics weren't quite as good, and Kansas beat Texas Tech. You start looking at some of the teams that are the toughest are St. Louis and Miami of Ohio, who we just talked about a moment ago. Being mid-majors. St. Louis right now appears safely in. Miami of Ohio is going to be a weird one. Their strength of schedule is very poor, but they're 25-0. Obviously, everybody would prefer teams like St. Louis and Miami of Ohio to go ahead and win their conference tournament, because then you don't have a multi-bid conference from there. I don't know what's going to happen to the Miami of Ohio if they lose a couple games. If they go like, I don't know, like 32-1, but lose in their conference tournament, I think they're still going to get in. But if they get like 2 or 3 losses, I don't know. That they're one that's curious to me. Right now, the last 4 in are San Diego, for me, San Diego State, New Mexico, USC, and West Virginia. Right on the cusp, just barely missing it, are Missouri, which obviously, if they'd have beaten Texas, that would have been a different story. Virginia Tech, Santa Clara, and Seton Hall. But there's some teams right now that I'm like, you need to watch yourself. Texas A&M needs to watch themselves. They are not in. I've got them as a 10 seed. They're not in a safe place. Georgia is sliding a little bit. TCU and Central Florida right now are safe-ish, but every game from this point on is going to be a much bigger game, a tighter game, more important game. Only other thing I'll point out to you, if you look, some teams in my rankings there are in all bold and in all caps. They are what would be considered the auto bid from their conference because they're leading the conference. So right now, Belmont's a 12 seed because they're leading the conference. Belmont probably won't get in unless they win their conference tournament. So, whereas, a team like St. Louis probably will get in even if they lose their conference tournament. So that's kind of just something to keep in mind. But everybody that's on that right now is just the team that's leading their conference right now. That could change if they don't win their conference tournament.
Great work, partner. And I know this is going to be updated moving into tournament season and, of course, into March Madness. Some things that jump out to me here. First of all, for us here locally, Stephen F. Austin as a 13 seed. According to your bracketology, they face a really tough matchup in the first round against Texas Tech.
Boy, how about that, though?
Yeah, that would be pretty cool for folks locally here. I know a lot of SFA alumni. I don't know, and this is just kind of interesting with Texas A&M and Texas both being 10 seeds, of course, in different brackets. But I think that's kind of interesting the way it rolled out here. So anyway, good stuff there. And again, going to try to throw this up there. I apologize ahead of time if for some reason I can't get it up there in the editing part of the broadcast, but I'm going to do my best.
Yeah, so you're all good.
Kind of see what you're looking at here and what Matt's work has done. And he's going to, as he said, work to clean it up a little bit and be ready to give us an update as appropriate. So good job there, brother. Appreciate it.
Happy to do it. Probably, I would say most likely scenario is it'll be updated for every Thursday show and every Monday show, because the Monday show will get us to take the whole weekend in. The Thursday will get us to take the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday games. And a massive one tonight. Houston is at Iowa State. Houston wins that one. That solidifies them as a number one. Iowa State wins it, and Iowa State starts to creep up into that conversation. So big one in the Big 12 tonight.
Reminder, my guy does all of this while preaching a top-notch sermon and preparing for that every Sunday. So even if he's already done it 3 times in a row.
Ooh, yes, sir.
All right, sticking with Matt here, just give us quickly here, maybe some Monday games you're going to be watching this evening or recommending that folks watch in men's basketball.
I mean, it starts and stops with Houston and Iowa State. Syracuse is playing at Duke, so you do have a top 5 team in action. I really don't expect much of a game there. I expect Duke to take care of that. Only other one that stands out to me, and I always love to give a little shout out to some of these smaller schools in the Sun Belt Conference. You've got a pretty significant game with, let me bring it up here. I'm looking at it. In the Sun Belt, you've got a pretty significant game with Marshall University. They are playing Well, it just went away from me. There we go. They are hosting South Alabama. South Alabama, one of the teams tied for the lead, but Marshall only one game behind them. But you mentioned SFA. I'll give another shout out there. They're 16-1 in their conference. They are on the road against Texas A&M Corpus Christi tonight. A&M Corpus Christi at 10-7 in the conference, so they're no slouch. But Stephen F. Austin, I tell you what, 23-3, 16-1 in conference. They kind of feel like one of those teams. We've seen them before. We've seen them knock off teams before in the NCAA tournament. Kind of just feels like one of those teams you're like, hey, why don't you go ahead and lose so I don't maybe have to run into you in the first round. But big one for them tonight, too. But
it could be, according to your bracket, maybe the best 13 seed.
Could be.
Tournament, for sure.
Could be, but it starts and stops
seed.
tonight, 8 o'clock on ESPN, Houston at Iowa State. That's what it's all about tonight.
Good deal. Good deal. Let's quickly run down the women's action from the weekend of the top 25 action here. It began on Friday with number 24 Princeton of the Ivy League going on the road and taking a loss at 16-6 Columbia. The Tigers of Princeton took a 70-56 loss there to Columbia in the Ivy League.
They're now tied.
Probably, yeah, it's gonna hurt Princeton's standing there in the Ivy League or in the top 25 for sure. Then they went back on the road and played Cornell. Shout out to Andy Bernard of The Office there at Cornell. But they went on the road the following day, which is kind of rare as you see in Division I college basketball for sure. But they took a 59-38 win, so they bounced back within 24 hours over Cornell there on Saturday. Some other top 25 games from the women. On Saturday, number 1 UConn remained undefeated with a 71-56 win over Marquette. Big one in the SEC. South Carolina went on the road to LSU, number 3 against number 6, and the Lady Gamecocks came away with a 79-72 win over the Tigers. They're in Baton Rouge. South Carolina improves to 25-2 on the season, 11-1 in the SEC. And LSU
big time win,
8-4 in the SEC, 22-4 overall. And then the other big top 25 game on the women's side for Saturday, number 16 Texas Tech goes on the road and takes a loss on the road up in Stillwater. Oklahoma State knocks off the Lady Raiders 75-66 to drop Texas Tech to 10-4 in the Big 12.
Yeah, the first of a number of ranked teams to lose. Well, Princeton was all you had already mentioned. We're going to get into that Sunday action, and of course, a lot of these were ranked on ranked matchups, but a lot of ranked teams lost in women's basketball this weekend.
We just start at the top here with number 2 on Sunday. Number 2 UCLA hosting Indiana. They take a 92-48 win over the Hoosiers. UCLA improves to 25-1 on the season, perfect 15-0 in the Big Ten. They are, of course, ranked number 2 in the country. Number 4, Texas, kind of stumbling a little bit on the road, in particular in the SEC. Go on the road again to face number 22 Tennessee on Sunday, and the Horns pull out a 65-63 win in a dogfight there in Tennessee.
Good win.
Good win there. I don't know if you heard Coach Vic Schaefer's comments after the game. Of course, he kind of stirred some controversy up in their loss following their loss against Vanderbilt. When he talked about his team had no heart, it was the softest team he had in years, which was kind of odd hearing that coming from a team that's ranked number 4 in the country and had just 2 losses. But he defended that on Sunday, and I like the way he defended it. And he said, "Look, I'm here to help these girls mature and help them grow and become, all that they can be in terms of society. I'm not here to coddle them." And I mean, it was one of those old school type things, and you kind of understood where he was coming from. And most importantly, I think his players probably got the message because they responded on Sunday in a big way in a tough environment, picked up a really big win on the road in the SEC there.
Yeah, that was a good one. Good win.
Speaking of Vanderbilt, which had beaten Texas earlier in the week, they go on the road and take a 2-point loss at Georgia, 76-74. Commodores dropped to 10-3 there. And, it's kind of weird. Texas gets that win or takes that loss at Vandy, and you're thinking, okay, Vandy may jump them in the top 25. That was a 5 versus 4 matchup. And then the next game before the next rankings could come out, Texas gets a big win on the road and Vandy takes a loss. So that may be a wash when the rankings come out today.
Maybe in the SEC, boy, just no nights off. It's a gauntlet. Woo.
Brutal, man. There's no way you can pick. You got to give South Carolina probably the edge in that women's tournament. But really, that's going to be a free-for-all down the stretch, particularly in the conference tournament. Anybody can win that one, particularly the top 5 or 6 teams.
No doubt.
In the Big Ten, a top 13 matchup here. Michigan State goes on the road and in a big rivalry game at Michigan. The number 7 Wolverines take an 86-65 win rather comfortably over their rivals there at Michigan State. That one was probably won with a 26-9 run in the second quarter.
Yeah.
Michigan improves to 13-2 in the Big Ten. Michigan State falls to 9-6.
Yep.
Another top 20 matchup in the Big Ten. Maryland on the road at Columbus to play Ohio State, which is ranked number 8 in the country. They take a big road win over the Buckeyes, 76-75 by outscoring Ohio State 19-15 in the fourth quarter. That's number 20 over number 8. Big Ten's also going to be a toss-up tournament for sure in the women's side.
Yep, that's a good win.
In the ACC, number 9 Louisville took care of business at home over Florida State, 88-65, improves to 24-4 on the season, 14-1 in conference play. Back in the SEC, a top 25 matchup, number 10 Oklahoma goes on the road and takes a big win over number 23 Alabama, 79-71. The Sooners improved to 7-5 in the conference, and the Crimson Tide drops to 6-6 in the league. The Battle Road on the women's side took place yesterday. Number 21 North Carolina going on the road to Duke, which is ranked number 11 on the season. The Blue Devils improved to 14-0 in the ACC with a 72-68 win over the Tar Heels.
14-0. That means they were 5-6 in pre-conference. Now
9-6 now overall.
I look at their non-conference schedule and I see number 16 Baylor, number 3 UCLA, number 5 LSU, number 2 South Carolina. So makes sense that they struggled a little bit there, but boy, they found their groove. 14-0.
Speaking of Baylor, the Bears went on the road to UCF in the Big 12 and took a 93-63 victory. They improved to 22-5 on the season, currently ranked number 12 last week. Back in the SEC, another top 25 matchup with Ole Miss going on the road to number 18 Kentucky. Ole Miss ranked number 14 in the country. Kentucky comes away with a 74-57 win there. In the Big 12, number 19 was on the road at number 17 TCU. The Lady Horned Frogs come away with a 59-50 win over the Mountaineers. And then going back out west, finally, number 25 Washington hosted Oregon at home on Saturday on Sunday rather, and took a 51-43 win there to improve to 9-6 in the Big Ten.
Yep.
That's your women's action from the weekend. We do not have a women's bracketology. We will probably lean on ESPN for that one because I don't want to ask my guy to do 2 of those things with everything else you got going on during the week, Matt.
Appreciate it.
We'll bring that one up probably on tomorrow's show, maybe dive down into the women's side of the bracket a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Okay, that brings us to the portion of our show that we call the back page. This is some random things that Matt and I pick up that don't fall into any of our other big segments on the show. And so, Matt, I want to give you the chance to start out. What popped out to you and some other things sports related over the weekend?
Well, this morning on my show on KMHT, I had Alan Martinez, the head soccer coach for the boys at Marshall High School. Marshall soccer's not been, I guess, noticeable. Hadn't really made much waves of late. This year, little different story. Over the past week, they got a win over Lufkin, who was number 3 in the district, and also a win over White House to improve to 4-4-1 in district play, which leaves them tied with Tyler for 5th. Just a half game behind 5-4 Nacogdoches for 4th, and their 2 games this week are on the road tomorrow night at Nacogdoches and on the road Friday night at Tyler. So things fall their way, they could be sitting there in playoff positioning. So want to just give a shout out to Coach Martinez and the Marshall boys soccer team. It has been a fantastic kind of turnaround for them. Tyler and Lufkin are not teams that Marshall typically competes with in soccer, and they have wins over both of them thus far this year, and a huge one on the road against Nacogdoches coming up. So kudos to them. Would love to see them make the playoffs. But either way, it has been an impressive turnaround for Marshall soccer.
Yes, good deal. I do remember as a student at Marshall High School back in the 80s when soccer was actually instituted as a UIL sport back then. It was just on the boys' side when it first started out. And Marshall, out of the gate under Coach Allen Husing, had one of the best soccer programs in the state at the high school level starting out. And kind of gone through some tough times here recently, as you said. So it's good to hear that they're back in the mix, so to speak, or have the potential to do that there. So congratulations to the Mavs there on the soccer pitch, as they call it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had a long weekend, Matt. I got a lot of stuff here I wanted to get to, just some things that came across my social media feeds and various things that I saw over a busy weekend. Number one thing I just wanted to mention, and you know how much this pains me to say, it was just interesting to see that Oklahoma softball had a rough time with UTEP over the weekend on Sunday in particular. They struggled out to a 34-0 win in softball over the Miners on Sunday.
Wow.
And the thing that stood out to me there, again, as an old SID was the fact that someone at UTEP on UTEP softball Twitter actually retweeted that score, was totally professional about it, and even used the hashtag that Oklahoma used in the retweet. So shout out to that SID, man. You're in the Hall of Fame for that kind of work. That is doing your job down to the T. I'm ashamed to say at this point that there were some times where things didn't go ETBU's way back in the day. Somewhat embarrassingly, maybe not too many times, where I may have forgotten to send out that score a little bit. But shout out to that guy that did that one, or lady, whoever did that one. That's total professionalism right there in that 34-0 loss. So to get that Oklahoma stink off of me, having to mention that, I did want to also mention that University of Texas went a combined 13-0 over the weekend in their athletic programs. That included men's tennis, women's tennis, softball, baseball, men's and women's basketball. A perfect weekend for the Horns.
Wow.
So take that, Oklahoma. Interesting signing in baseball yesterday. The Rangers signed veteran first baseman and outfielder Mark Canha, that's an interesting signing for me in terms of depth. Canha's toward the end of his career, but if you follow the Rangers, he's a guy that has always just been a really good, solid baseball player. He versatile, can play, as I said, he can play the infield, he can play the outfield. As a matter of fact, from 2019 to 23, he was ranked 15th overall among MLB qualifiers with a 370 on-base percentage over that time. So just a really solid, dependable player and an interesting signing. He was brought in on a non-contract basis, kind of playing for a spot there, similar to what they did last year with Kevin Pillar, if you remember that.
Yeah.
Roster. So I thought that was an interesting signing there. Again, the Rangers still trying to fill out that roster as we move into the season. And then I tweeted this to you, or I texted this to you. Figured you'd have some pride in this, but of course, Arkansas and TCU played baseball in Globe Life Field on Saturday. Over 22,000 fans in attendance. The overwhelming majority of those were Hog fans.
Yeah.
And just say shout out to them. They definitely travel well up there in baseball. And I can tell you, my son who played at DBU, probably he said the best environment that he was in his entire time at DBU was going up there for a regional at Arkansas one year.
It's just pretty cool.
Just loved it. A couple of other things here on the back page for me that I wanted to mention that came across after I did my report. This was yesterday by Hayes Fawcett on Twitter. 4-star running back Kadarius McMiller, Tyler Legacy, has committed. I believe is he from Tyler High maybe? I can't remember.
Yeah, he's from Tyler High. Yeah.
Kadarius McMiller. Anyway, he's committed to Oregon.
All that.
So he will be an Oregon Duck next year or after his high school career. 6'2", 200-pound running back from Tyler, Texas. Chose the Ducks over Texas SMU and Texas A&M. So congratulations to that young man for that next step in his career, for sure.
Yep, excited for him. And I'll just say one other thing. I know I didn't really bring it up. I know we're going to talk about the boys basketball tomorrow for high school, but can't say how excited I am that Marshall boys have clinched a playoff berth with a big win over White House this weekend. Of course, you know, I have a son on the team. We've never even sniffed the playoffs with him during his time there. And so he's going to get it. It may not go well. I've looked at who we're matched up with, but I don't care. He's going to get to play a playoff game. We're going to get to celebrate senior night tomorrow night. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. But shout out to Coach Jermaine Boyd and the Marshall Maverick basketball team for making the playoffs.
Good deal there. And I also wanted to again shout out to one of my right team services clients, Smackover Arkansas.
Yeah,
you that sent me this tweet, and I can't put the video up, but we'll just describe it here. Smackover was playing at Ashdown on Friday night, and at the end of the game, Smackover had a win well in hand, and a young man who probably never had gotten to play much in his life, or at least in high school, Smackover inbounds the ball in the final seconds, does not cross half court. They throw it back to their teammate, and then this young man is standing at the three-point line.
Well, they throw it to the Ashdown kid.
Like they throw it to the Ashdown kid.
Yeah.
Smackover throws it to Ashdown kid and gives him 3 uncontested three-pointers at the end. He hits the third one at the buzzer.
Yeah.
And
so cool.
It's one of those things that went viral over the weekend. So if you get a chance and you're online on social media, it's on Facebook as well. I actually shared it on the Smackover School District page, Smackover Northlet School District page in Arkansas on Facebook, so you can see the video. Man, it really is a touching thing to see. And man, those things are always cool. And they always seem to happen in basketball.
They do.
I mean, you always seem to see those things in basketball. I don't know the background story of that, but anyway, just a great scene there. Ashdown stormed the court and kind of carried this kid off the court. So anyway, it was a big deal. You'd like to see that in the rough and tumble world of sports that we look at most of the time.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, excited for it.
Before we get going here, I did want to bring up again, I've made this a separate segment here as we close out this date in sports history, just kind of looking back on some of the events on this particular date, which of course is February 16th. And again, happy President's Day to everyone out there.
Sure.
But some events that happened on this date, let's see if you remember any of these, Matt. In 1972, Wilt Chamberlain of the Los Angeles Lakers became the first player in NBA history to reach 30,000 points in a career. And he reached that milestone in a 110-109 loss to the Phoenix Suns. Again, not saying he scored 30,000 points that night. That was a career. But he became the first one to ever surpass 30,000 points.
Yep.
There. Remember Wilt the Stilt?
I mean, know plenty
Legendary.
of him. Never got to watch him. Know plenty of him. Know plenty of his statistics on the court and alleged ones off the court. But yeah, I know about him for sure.
In 1999, on this date, this is kind of this is just kind of one of those things you have to mention on this date if you're doing this. O.J. Simpson's 1968 Heisman Trophy was sold for $230,000 to help the Jews settle a $33.5 million civil judgment against him for the deaths of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ron Goldman back in 1994. So this was the date that O.J. actually sold his Heisman to help pay that civil judgment.
Wow.
Which I don't believe was ever fully paid. I don't think. But anyway, and in 2005, the NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman announced that he was canceling the entire NHL season due to a labor dispute. It was the first time that a North American professional sports league had called off their entire season due to labor disputes. And I bring that up because, again, we've been kind of warning and hearing that enjoy your Major League Baseball because we could see the potential of something like this maybe happening a year from now.
Yeah, the second time may be on the way.
Yeah. And I actually kind of had to do a little bit more research on this because, at least in my lifetime, I distinctly remember, I believe, the 1994 baseball season being canceled, the World Series being canceled. But this was an entire season of the NHL that they didn't play any games that year due to this labor dispute. Baseball at least got a half a season in that year.
Right. Yeah.
Birthdays on this date. Celebrating a birthday today in the sports world. John McEnroe, tennis star who won 7 Grand Slams, actually born in Wiesbaden, Germany on this date in 1959.
Wow.
Johnny Mac is now 67 years old today.
Came out of the womb screaming at a line judge.
He sure did. He sure did. If we're going to call the lines, we're going to call the lines, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this one here is kind of an interesting one to me. Not that he was born today. It's just I'm kind of become a closet fan of this guy. Jerome Bettis, the Bus, Pro Football Hall of Fame running back, 2-time All-Pro and Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have to say closet fan because he was a stinking Steeler.
Yeah.
But he was born in Detroit on February the 16th, 1972. The Bus is now 54 years old.
And he played college ball where?
At University of Notre Dame.
That's right.
Yes, he did. And then on the other flip side of this, finally, folks who passed away in the sports world on this date, February the 16th. You probably don't remember this guy. Only a diehard Cowboy fan can remember this guy, but Ernie Stautner. He's in the actual Hall of Fame. He was a defensive tackle for the Steelers, I believe, but then he went on to become a 2-time Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator with the Dallas Cowboys in 71 and 77. He was Tom Landry's defensive coordinator. Anyway, he died on February the 16th of 2006 from complications of Alzheimer's disease. Coach Stautner was 80 at the time of his passing. And then some couple of baseball guys here, and you'll remember these guys, I'm sure. Gary Carter, the Hall of Fame catcher with Montreal and the Mets. Member of the 1986 World Series champion Mets, actually a leader on that squad. Got on my nerves. I hated the way this guy played. He's just so excited to play baseball. It was kind of annoying. But anyway, February the 16th, 2012, Carter died of a brain tumor at the age of 57. Right about where I'm at now. It's kind of scary. And then, of course, finally here, Tim McCarver. You remember Tim McCarver?
I do.
The 2-time World Series catcher with the St. Louis Cardinals, probably more well known as a broadcaster, a baseball broadcaster, and for infamously getting doused with Gatorade or water in the locker room by Deion Sanders. I don't know if you remember that one.
I do.
Following the World Series.
I do.
Yeah, that was go look that one up if you want to get some hate in on primetime. That was back in the days, I'm sure that Deion would like to forget. But anyway, McCarver died on this date in 2023, just a couple of years ago, actually 3 years ago now, of heart failure. He was 81 years old.
Yeah, probably one of the least liked. I mean, he was so savvy about the game, but he was probably one of the least liked announcers of my lifetime.
He was, and I really didn't understand that. I mean, there were times when I didn't really like him that much, but like you said, he was very insightful. He knew the game, but he almost took too many shots at players personally, and he got thrown back in his face literally when he did it for Deion. And in the middle of the World Series locker room celebration, Deion put some cold water on him to kind of cool him off a little bit.
Yeah, he just kind of had a vibe like he just knew better than everybody else,
Right.
And it was not always the most enjoyable to watch.
Was not for sure, but he did pass away on this date 3 years ago. So
Yeah.
That's it for today's From the Press Box on the Right Team podcast. We want to thank everyone out there for watching and listening. Again, if you enjoy the show, please help us out by subscribing on YouTube. It's very easy to just click that little thumbs up button and become a subscriber to our show. If you're listening via the traditional podcast, please also give us a like or a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you access your favorite podcasts. That helps us grow our show, and it also ensures that you never miss an episode. Once again, we want to shout out to our awesome podcast sponsors, East Texas Baptist University, Styles Electric, and Right Team Services for their support of the podcast. Our final word today comes from Romans chapter 12, verse 10. Love one another deeply as brothers and sisters. Take the lead in honoring one another. Love well today, Right Teamers, and honor each other with your words and actions. Thanks again to my co-host, Matt Paul. And once again, this is David Weaver. We'll be back here tomorrow for another edition of From the Press Box on the Right Team podcast. And until then, as always, keep writing your story.